It's strange how the plans you make in January barely make it to December. We kind of start looking back with the same thoughts, things like, did I do enough or did I actually follow through? And when we reach the end of the year, it just turns into this moment where we judge ourselves again, sometimes harder than we need to. And while last year's resolutions are still half open, we are already adding new ones to the next year's list. What's strange is we know this and we still repeat it year after year until something breaks that cycle. That's what I want to talk about today. If this is your first time watching, I'm Son. I've changed paths a few times over the years: finance, fashion, luxury, and now content creation. And after restarting a few times, I started noticing something. I don't think this cycle keeps happening because people lack discipline. Most people already know what they want to change, but what's interesting is when they expect that change to happen. And it happens often on certain dates that feel meaningful. For example, January feels like a clean page, December feels like a closing chapter. And our brain loves that kind of structure because clear beginnings make things feel manageable, even when life doesn't really work that way. They give us a sense of order even if nothing has actually changed yet. There's a concept in psychology that explains part of this. It's called the fresh start effect. It shows that dates can boost motivation. So we get excited when something feels like a new start, like January or a birthday or sometimes even a Monday. For a moment, it feels like everything resets, like you're allowed to start over again. And that feels good. But here's the part most people miss: that feeling alone doesn't last. When it fades, most people think they failed or get frustrated. They assume they are the problem and tell themselves they try harder next time. So what happens next is they just roll with that idea, carrying it forward into the next month, the next year, and what we all know, the next set of resolutions. And in my own life, the changes that really mattered never started on specific dates like January 1st. They started when something wasn't working anymore, and I responded to it. And I know that sounds almost too simple, like common sense, but think about this way. It's like brushing your teeth properly only because you have a dentist appointment coming up. For a few days, you are careful, you floss, you pay attention, not because your habits actually changed, but because there's a date coming. Or think about a beach holiday. A couple of months before, suddenly you are more disciplined, you eat better, you work out more. Again, not because something fundamentally changed, but because there's a deadline. Once the appointment is over, most people slowly fall back into the same routine. The appointment didn't create care, it just triggered behavior, temporarily. That's exactly what happens with January. The date creates a short spike in action, but not a real shift in your behavior. So when it fades, people don't fail because they are lazy, they struggle because the change was attached to the calendar, not to something they were actually responding to. And that leads to a bigger problem most people don't really notice. When change is triggered by a date, it doesn't fully feel like your own decision. It feels optional, like something you are just trying for a while instead of something you really decided you want to do. You tell yourself, I see how it goes, I try to be consistent this time. And with that approach, there's always an exit because deep down, it feels like a trial, not a decision. So when life gets busy again, and it always does, that new change is the first thing to drop. Not because you don't care, but the structure around it isn't. It's like saying, I'm going to eat better this year, but your kitchen looks exactly the same. The snacks you usually grab are still there, the quick meals are still the easiest option, nothing around you has changed. So every day the new behavior has to fight the old setup. And when that gets tiring, people think, I guess I just didn't have the discipline, which I think is a wrong conclusion. The issue was never effort. What they did was intentional, but it never really settled. And that's why so many resolutions don't last, because if something is going to last, it can't just fit into your life. It has to become part of it. And there's also something else people tend to avoid. Real change doesn't just mean adding something new, it also means letting go of something familiar. That could be an old routine, a habit, and that part is hard because letting go still feels like a loss. That's why so many changes don't stick, not because people don't want to change, but because they don't want to lose anything in the process. And I get it, a lot of people see change as sacrifice, but it often works better when you see it as a trade. You are not just giving something up, you're choosing what you are trading it for. And when it feels like a choice you've made, not something you are forcing yourself through. It stops feeling like a phase. It becomes part of how you live. Less negotiating with yourself, less I'll see how it goes, and more this is how I do it now. You might think, okay, then I just need more willpower. But in my experience, that really works because willpower assumes you feel motivated on days when you won't. It works when things feel manageable, when life isn't throwing curveballs at you. But most days are like that. That's why setup matters more than willpower, because with the right setup, you don't have to convince yourself every single day. Think about wanting to be more active, but your evenings are fully booked the same way every night. Motivation won't suddenly rearrange your day for you. And if you want to focus, but your phone is always within your reach, then your willpower is doing a lot of heavy lifting. That's why designing your environment matters, so you're not having the same argument with yourself every day. And underneath all of this, there's something personal we need to understand. Most people don't delay change because they don't see what's wrong. And it's not because they're incapable of changing either. A lot of the time, they wait because it doesn't feel like the right moment yet. They tell themselves things like, I'll do it in January, once things calm down, when life feels a bit more stable. Those moments feel safer, they make change feel allowed. And that's why dates carry so much weight, not because they change anything, but because they give us a sense of permission. But when you wait for permission from a date, you're usually postponing something you already know. And once you see that clearly, you stop waiting for the right time. So maybe the upcoming year doesn't need another list. Maybe it just needs a bit more honesty. And when I'm honest with myself, it usually comes down to a few simple questions. What have I been putting off, even though I already know it's not working? Where do I keep negotiating with myself instead of just admitting the truth? Why am I still tolerating this? Just because I haven't given myself permission to change? The moment something feels clear enough to act on, that's already a real start. I hope this video gave you a bit more clarity, not just for the plans you're making, but for understanding yourselves a little bit better when you think about change. If this spoke to you, feel free to give it a like and share what you're choosing to log in. I genuinely love to read your thoughts in the comments. And if building confidence is something you're thinking about, I've linked a video here that explores a bit more deeply. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you there.